win. This is a guy that has a chance the next 2 years. If you look at that roster, if they can get a left tackle in a corner, they have a chance to win another trophy. That's a real team. So this is not a small bit of news. This is a big deal. And Stafford is intellectually in a very elite group in this league, and McVay makes his quarterbacks be dialed in and prepared. And Stafford, I mean, you've seen those social media clips. There's been a little documentary on Stafford's work ethic. It is very aligned with McVay. It was funny. McVay went out, and during contract negotiations, usually your bosses don't say good things about you because, they're trying to, they don't want to tell you how great you are. McVay came out and said, yeah, like he's unbelievable. So what it's telling you is McVay wanted it to happen, but Stan Kroenke ultimately makes the call. The owner's writing the checks. So McVay wanted it out there that Stan Kroenke knew, there's nobody, we are not going to be the same football team without Matt Stafford. We are not going to be the same franchise. So for Sean McVay to give flowers, a week before they signed him, that was a message to Stan Kroenke. And the Rams are rolling. I mean, you got Harbaugh and Herbert in the same stadium. You don't want to ham and egger at quarterback. I do think they thought about Aaron Rodgers, but, I saw a story yesterday that Aaron was interested in bringing Devontae Adams. They've already got a receiver in Cooper Kupp they're trying to move off of. They don't want another expensive receiver, so this feels like the right fit.
Yeah. I've talked about Stafford in a lot of different scenarios, like if he goes to the Steelers, if he goes to the Raiders, whatever it is. But like I made it known, like staying with the Rams makes the most amount of sense for him from a football sense. I mean, you're going to be with Sean McVay and what the Rams are doing, and like Darius Slay said, he for the defensive player for the Philadelphia Eagles, he said that he thinks that the Rams had the best chance to beat them, and which was true. They played them the best, and it came down to essentially the final snap, the final play, and no one else had that opportunity versus the Philadelphia Eagles throughout the playoffs. So that's a very real thing. And yeah, I mean, Matthew Stafford is obviously special, and quite frankly, more importantly, more than anything, and this is something that we kind of increasingly see, and I think this was very well highlighted throughout the playoffs this past season, but pretty much every playoffs, but definitely this past playoffs, is how important it is to have a big time quarterback in big time moments. It just can't be understated. It really, really can't. Someone who can get after it and just make plays and gotta have it moments, and just don't shy away from the moment. And there's only so many quarterbacks that have actually truly done that at the highest level, specifically the Super Bowl, who are playing right now, who are clearly still near or at the top of their game. And right now, I'm probably going to miss a few quarterbacks, but right now it really only feels like it's Jalen Hurts, Stafford, and of course Patrick Mahomes. Believe me, I trust that Josh Allen's going to ball in the playoffs, stuff like that, but like, I'm talking at least Super Bowls. And so it's just like, what other quarterback are you going to make? Like the messing around with Aaron Rodgers just never really seemed to make sense to me. And this is what I kind of said when we were talking about Sean McVay and the Rams, where it's like, if you feel like you're right there and you actually have a real chance to win the Super Bowl, then like, why would you mess with anyone? Like it doesn't make any sense. It's like, why would you then move on from Matthew Stafford? Like, if you think that, like, if you were right there, you were a play away from getting to the NFC Championship game, and then you were going to play the Commanders, and it's like, who knows what you could have done versus the Commanders? It's not hard to imagine that you were going to beat the Commanders, and then we saw what the Eagles did to the Chiefs. Now, again, clearly the Eagles were a superior team, so they really dominated the Chiefs. And so it would have been a closer game, but it's not like you would have said, like, oh yeah, but the Chiefs, like, they weren't good enough to beat the Chiefs. Like, you can't be so quick to say that. You just can't. If anyone's going to be able to deal with Spags in that defense, would be Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. So that's where football is kind of crazy, right? You're a play away from potentially winning the Super Bowl, even though you didn't even get to the NFC Championship game. Like, that's where football can kind of be just a mess with the mind a bit. But At the same time, though, I would also encourage fans to not like lean on that too heavily, right? Don't be like, oh, if we beat the Eagles, we were guaranteed to win, because then you have other people that take it kind of too far. Where like again, like Dak Prescott's like, oh, we played the Philadelphia Eagles close, therefore we're close to winning a Super Bowl, and it's like, nah, that's not what we're doing here either necessarily. But the Rams, from my viewpoint, I said this throughout the season, were always difficult to evaluate because of all the injuries that they had throughout the season. And it's just like from the jump they had all these injuries, then they were finally getting everyone back, and now you get everyone back, and now it's going to take a second. Now that you have the team, it's going to take a second to have everyone get situated in the way that they need to get situated, and kind of get comfortable with one another, and get into the rhythm of the game, and then boom, you're in the playoffs. And it's just there's a lot going on there. And unfortunately, they ran into the Super Bowl champions right after the Vikings. And so that's just an unfortunate situation on the road in the snow. The snow, from my viewpoint, though, helps a team like the Rams a little bit, although, it was kind of seems like it kind of hurt both teams. But yeah, I think it was, it was always a weird situation to me where it was kind of like, unless there's a quarterback who they really want and they're excited to, and they felt that they have a young team and that they're okay having like a down year or two to try to figure out, to let the quarterback develop, insert John Smith into this lineup. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But it just seems like you have a good enough roster right now to legitimately compete. And if you're going to move on from Stafford for like a Sam Darnold or an Aaron Rodgers, it's like, I don't see the point, because from the viewpoint is like, no, your chance to win is right now, is within these next couple of years. So why kind of play the game with Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, or a rookie quarterback? It just never really made that much sense to me. But Colin kept reporting that the Rams were like dead set on moving from Stafford, and so it was just like, I don't know. It was always a weird situation. So definitely good for the Rams. I really think this is the right deal, the right move, and I think, yeah, anyone who's going to count out the Rams would be silly. But and I think they kind of almost have the benefit the way how last year ended, because I think a lot of people are not expecting them to really be this great team, and people have already kind of forgotten how great of a coach Sean McVay is, because of unfortunate chain of events that led to injuries, having to have like Baker Mayfield losing Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and then Cooper Kupp comes back, but he's clearly not the Cooper Kupp that we know him to be. You're missing the O-line, like a lot of things just kind of worked against them. And it's just like, people forget that when you have a good enough team around McVay and Stafford, like, they're going to be able to do some damage, and you're not going to be in the playoffs where you're going to be able to be like, oh, we can out coach them. Like, no, like it's going to take all hands on deck to beat this team. It's not, it's not an easy matchup against the Rams by any stretch of the imagination. And any limitations that a Rams team could have when you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, especially, like, they're going to be set up to be able to overcome those things, which is why they were able to still make the playoffs and find a way to just stay remotely afloat when they got decimated by injuries. Of course, they had some low moments, because, you can only do so much with scotch tape and, super glue, but they found themselves in a position to be a play away from getting to the NFC Championship game. That's way more impressive than I think people actually realize, especially when you take into account that you lost to the team that went on to then dominate the Commanders and dominate the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that loss now ages even better, quite frankly, on the road, blizzard, snowstorm, whatever you want to call it. So this makes the most amount of sense, and it was always a weird situation. And it's funny, because when I was talking about, I was looking at it from an entertainment perspective as well, because I made a couple isolated Matthew Stafford videos through the lens of, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, or if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan. I'm like, yeah, like, you want this. If you're a Raiders fan, I'm like, you want Matthew Stafford, like, absolutely. Like, yeah, I know he's getting older and all of this, but like, no, like, your team is going to be significantly better. And from an entertainment perspective, I'm also kind of looking at, on the outside looking in, where it's like, yeah, it'd be cool to see Matthew Stafford in like a different situation, and like, what are the Rams looking to do? And like, You know, I pushed back on the Aaron Rodgers because I was like, I don't know. I mean, if he has a great meeting with Sean McVay now, and I'm like, and they really see each other eye to eye, but I'm just like, that was the one move that I like couldn't necessarily wrap my head around with. And I do think Sean McVay would have success with Sam Darnold. This is going to be more of a guarantee. Sam Darnold, you would have been betting on, hey, you know what? I think he can do a lot of what Stafford can, and I think he'll be able to do it longer because he's significantly younger. You are going to try to now have to do this little song and dance to try to figure out, when does Stafford decline? And, I do think Stafford is a special quarterback, but at this age, what ends up happening is, like, again, the way how just athletes in general age, it's not always linear in the sense of like, okay, he used to be like 95%, now he's just 90%. It's just like some quarterbacks can still play great special and be 100, but they just have more regular games where you're just like, what the heck was that? That was that's not the quarterback that I know. Or you just have more drives or halves where you're just like, dude, like this is bizarre. Like, what am I looking at? And we saw Stafford have a couple of those moments, and that's why I think people kind of started being, kind of started turning cold on him. But I really am confident, though, that when you give them a team around him, he is going to be one of the top quarterbacks who will know how to squeeze every single bit of juice out of that roster and elevate the team as well. And let's not pretend like every single quarterback in the NFL can do that, because they most certainly cannot. So if you're a Rams fan, I think you should be quite excited about this. And I do agree with Colin that this team should absolutely be contenders moving forward. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Matthew Stafford agreeing to a restructured deal to keep him in Los Angeles? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.